Today we're going to make a cast iron pizza with a 3-ingredient crust. Super easy to make. Makes a great, crispy, crunchy crust. Listen to this. We're going to make a simple pepperoni and cheese, but you can put any toppings you want. Let's get into the recipe. Okay, for our crust, we're going to use kosher salt, all-purpose flour, plain fat-free Greek yogurt. If you're using table salt, you might want to cut the amount of salt in half. And if you're using very salty pepperoni, lots of Parmesan or other salty toppings, you may want to cut that down a little bit more. Totally up to you. Now, don't mess up like I did. Go ahead and mix your salt in with your flour before adding the Greek yogurt. But if you do forget, like me, not the end of the world. The original recipe calls for a food processor to mix. You can do that. You can use a stand mixer. I'm just using a fork here. We don't want to bring this completely together, and we don't want to overdevelop that gluten in the flour. That might create a tough or chewy crust. So you'll see in a moment when I dump this onto the board, we have quite a bit of dry flour. And right there, I was just checking using the tape measure so we'll measure our pizza crust here in a minute, just so we take up every bit of that cast iron skillet, and we don't want any thick, a crust too thick if we don't have to have it. So you can see quite a bit of dry flour remaining here. We're just going to work it together with our hands. You should be able to handle this dough easily. If not, you probably got some ratios wrong in either your flour or your Greek yogurt. You notice I use a food scale, so I've got the grams in the recipe for a reason. Measuring cups can be kind of off, so if you can use weight in a food scale, do that. So you should be able to handle this dough. I'm not going to spin it around. I'm no pizza expert here, but you should be able to. If you're competent in that area, be my guest. I'm just going to press in from the center outward, and you'll notice that the outer crust is a little bit thicker than the center, but don't press too much to where you create gaps in the center. Okay, so we're going to heat a cast iron skillet over medium heat and then add some olive oil. Let that olive oil get hot. If you are concerned about cooking with cast iron on a glass stovetop, don't be. Just be very careful, but it's perfectly fine. So once our oil is hot, you can see I kind of swirl that around so we make sure we've got even. We don't want any like pools of olive oil on one end of the crust and not the other. So swirl that around before you add your crust or your dough. And then we're going to lie that into the skillet going away from you. So don't plop this down and then shoot oil out at yourself. And then we're just going to cook this. You can see the olive oil starts to kind of show through. We get some slight bubbles here. I like to pick my skillet up. Again, use 2 hands, be careful, and kind of swirl it around. You get some that comes up on the edges, and that's going to create those really golden brown edges, especially if you can get some kind of up on the top of the edge of the dough. And then we're going to add some of our mozzarella cheese here. We're going to wait for that to melt a bit. Again, I'm kind of swirling the olive oil around just so we don't get any over-saturated parts and kind of get some up on the top. And this here is going to be just a plain pizza sauce mixed with Alfredo, kind of a faux pink sauce. You can use any type of sauce, just crushed tomatoes if you want to. You can make your own sauce, whatever you want to do here. We're just going to put that on. I don't spread it around. Then we're going to add a little bit of fresh Parmesan, more mozzarella. This is turkey pepperoni. The original recipe was a veggie-only pizza. I've seen people make barbecue chicken, buffalo chicken, all kinds of stuff. So you can get creative with your toppings. We'll just put these on. And again, this crust is cooking all the while we're doing this here. And then we're going to top with more cheese, a little bit of crushed red pepper, some fresh black pepper, and then it's time to go in the oven. But before we do that, you can kind of see here what the crust looks like. So golden brown in the center, but not so much around the edges. So check this before you go into the oven. And we're going to let this cook a little bit longer here. And then you can see we've got that golden brown ring around the edge. And okay, so we're ready to go in the oven now. So I've got my oven at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. If you can go hotter, be my guest. This isn't going to be in there long, and you're kind of going to use an eyeball test. So, I think 6 to 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes. I think this one went 8 to 10 minutes. It's probably going to depend a little bit on your toppings And then that's it. So we should have, melted cheese, crispy pepperoni, or whatever toppings you're using. And then it's time to cut, slice, and enjoy. That's it.